The relentless North Carolina sun beat down in the summer of 2018, baking the already parched earth of Elias Vance's 10-acre farm. Eli, a man whose face was as weathered as the peeling paint on his grandfather's farmhouse, wiped a bead of sweat from his brow with the back of a calloused hand. He adjusted a pyramid of slightly sad-looking heirloom tomatoes on his rickety roadside stand, the last bastion against financial ruin. 3 consecutive years of drought had shrunk his legacy, forcing him to sell off parcel after parcel, leaving just this core, this heartwood of his family's history. Another slow day, he grumbled internally, the silence amplifying the buzz of determined flies. The mortgage payment, a looming specter, demanded attention in 5 days. He'd managed to scrape together most of the sum, a feat bordering on miraculous, but a stubborn $200 remained elusive. This weekend, this meager stand was his final desperate gamble. His ancient pickup truck, affectionately nicknamed the Rust Bucket, added its own percussion of coughs and sputters to his morning anxieties, threatening to strand him and his precious produce, cutting off his access to the marginally more lucrative town farmers market. Fixing it was a luxury as distant as a thunderstorm. Inside the farmhouse, emptiness echoed. His wife, Eleanor, lost to cancer 2 years prior, had taken the light with her, leaving behind a mountain of medical bills that had devoured their savings. Now, only the farm, the debt, and the bittersweet ache of memories remained. Despite the weight pressing down on him, Eli possessed a stubborn warmth, a default setting of kindness. He greeted the few customers who did stop with a genuine, if tired, smile. Locals knew his prices were fair, his produce grown with integrity. Some whispered his tomatoes, even in these trying times, were the county's finest, a small compliment that felt like a cool drop of water on scorched land. He scanned the dusty road, hoping for a sign of approaching customers, any sign of salvation. The air hung thick and still, mirroring the stagnation in his finances. His gaze drifted to the fields, thirsty and struggling under the unforgiving sky. He thought of his father, James, a man forged in the humid jungles of Vietnam, who always said resilience was plowed into their family soil. Eli clung to that thought, a farmer's prayer whispered against the drone of insects and the gnawing fear of the crisp, official-looking envelope Mr. Reginald Grimshaw from the county bank would surely send if he missed this payment. Grimshaw, a man whose smile seemed surgically removed and whose veins likely pumped ice water, represented the faceless threat that could uproot generations of Vance history. Eli shuddered, pushing the image away, focusing instead on straightening a leaning stack of cucumbers, an act of defiance against the encroaching despair, a small assertion of order in a world tilting towards chaos. The image of Grimshaw's perpetually disappointed frown was almost enough to make the summer heat feel like a pleasant, cool breeze in comparison. As the afternoon sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and resignation, Eli spotted a figure approaching on foot. The man moved slowly, deliberately favoring one leg. Faded jeans, a worn but clean t-shirt, and a military cap bearing a veteran's insignia told a story before any words were exchanged. The stranger stopped at the stand, his eyes scanning the vegetables with a quiet intensity, hands clasped behind his back. Eli recognized the posture, the careful stillness of someone who had seen too much. He saw the faint tremor in the man's hands as he reached out, almost touching a ripe tomato, then pulling back. The veteran's gaze held a weariness that went bone deep. "Those tomatoes look mighty fine," the man finally murmured, his voice low and raspy. "Fresh picked this morning," Eli replied, his usual warmth tinged with curiosity. He noted the insignia again. "You serve?" The man nodded, a flicker of pride briefly chasing the exhaustion from his eyes. "2 tours in Afghanistan. Name's Marcus Bell." Eli extended his hand. "Elias Vance." "Thank you for your service, Marcus." The handshake was firm, despite the slight tremble Eli had noticed earlier. Marcus picked up a tomato, weighed it gently, then placed it back with painstaking care. "Just looking today. Trying to stretch my disability check till the end of the month." Eli's farmer eyes didn't miss how thin Marcus appeared, the way his clothes hung loosely on his frame. The tremor wasn't just nerves, it was hunger, fatigue. "You look like you could use a good meal," Eli stated, more observation than question. Marcus offered a ghost of a shrug. "Been better days. Got laid off last month from my security job when my leg acted up. Still waiting on increased benefits bureaucracy, you know." Eli's mind instantly flashed to his own empty refrigerator, the stack of bills on the kitchen table, the looming $200 shortfall, the smug phantom of Mr. Grimshaw rubbing his metaphorical hands together. Every vegetable on this stand represented a fraction of that needed sum. Yet, watching Marcus, seeing the quiet dignity battling the visible need, something shifted within Eli. "Hold on a minute," he said, turning towards the back of the stand. He grabbed a sturdy cardboard box and, ignoring the frantic calculations screaming in his head, began filling it. Plump tomatoes, crisp cucumbers, vibrant green beans, earthy potatoes, a rainbow of his hard-won harvest tumbled into the box. Marcus stepped back, alarmed. "I can't afford all that." "It's not for sale," Eli replied, adding a bunch of sweet corn, his most profitable item. "It's for you." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I don't take handouts." His voice was firm, laced with pride, but underscored by exhaustion. Eli paused, box heavy in his arms, and looked Marcus squarely in the eye. "It's not a handout. Consider it a thank you for your service. My dad, James, he was in Vietnam. He always said the hardest part was coming home, feeling forgotten." He added half a dozen ears of corn, each one representing dollars he desperately needed. "Take it. There's plenty more where this came from, a blatant, necessary lie." The box contained nearly half his morning's harvest, a significant portion of his already diminished yield. Marcus hesitated, a visible war playing out on his face between pride and hunger. "I didn't serve to get free vegetables." "I know that," Eli said softly. "But kindness isn't transactional." Slowly, reluctantly, Marcus accepted the heavy box. "I don't know what to say." "No need," Eli waved him off. "Just enjoy it." As Marcus turned, Eli called out, "Wait!" He fetched 2 dozen fresh eggs from his cooler. "Protein. You need it." This time, Marcus couldn't hide the moisture gathering in his eyes. "Thank you, Eli." Truly. Watching the veteran limp away, box clutched like treasure, Eli felt a pang of financial panic immediately followed by a surprising sense of rightness. He'd just given away his mortgage payment, potentially, but maybe, just maybe, he'd held on to something more valuable. Later, an elderly couple, regulars, bought only 2 tomatoes instead of their usual dozen, murmuring apologies about Social Security not stretching far enough. By sunset, Eli had made a paltry $37. That night, under the bare bulb of his kitchen light, the numbers mocked him. Even a sellout tomorrow wouldn't be enough. "Should have kept those eggs," a treacherous thought whispered, instantly shamed into silence. He thought again of Mr. Grimshaw's inevitable, chillingly polite call. The next morning dawned not with promise, but with the ominous rumble of thunder. Dark, bruised clouds gathered overhead, unleashing a torrential downpour by noon. Eli scrambled to bring his remaining produce inside, the rain drumming a funeral march on the stand's tin roof. "No customers today. No chance." As he secured the shutters, his phone rang, shrill and demanding. It was the bank. Mr. Reginald Grimshaw's voice, smooth and cold as polished riverstone, emanated from the receiver. "Mr. Vance, I'm calling about your mortgage payment." The second notice was quite clear, wasn't it? Eli's throat felt tight. "I know. I just need a few more days. A little more time." Mr. Grimshaw sighed, a sound conveying not sympathy but profound boredom with Eli's predictable predicament. "We've been extraordinarily flexible, Mr. Vance, quite beyond standard procedure, I assure you. However, flexibility has its limits. Banking, you see, operates on schedules, not sentiment. If the payment isn't received by the deadline, which is tomorrow, we will be forced to initiate proceedings." The word proceedings hung in the air, heavy and final. The rain continued its relentless assault throughout Sunday, washing away the last vestiges of Eli's hope. Monday morning arrived heavy with dread. He resigned himself to the humiliation of calling Grimshaw again, begging for an extension he knew wouldn't come. As he waited for the weak coffee to brew, he noticed his own hands trembling, mirroring Marcus Bell's tremor from days before. 3 generations. This land wasn't just dirt and crops, it was blood, sweat, and memories. Losing it felt like severing a limb. Eleanor would know what to do, he whispered into the silence, the thought bringing a fresh wave of grief. The inevitable phone call was precisely as soul-crushing as anticipated. Grimshaw, dripping condescending politeness, reiterated the bank's position. "Business is business, Mr. Vance. Rules are rules." A regrettable situation, but unavoidable. Eli hung up, the dial tone buzzing like an angry hornet in his ear. He walked onto the porch, the rain having finally ceased. The morning sun broke through the clouds, making the drenched fields glisten with a deceptive beauty. How many more sunrises would he see from this porch? Despair threatened to engulf him, a suffocating tide. Yet, amidst the wreckage of his hopes, a strange calm settled. He didn't regret helping Marcus. The image of the veteran's surprised gratitude, the brief connection forged over shared hardship and a box of vegetables, offered a small, inexplicable anchor. It was a foolish, ruinous gesture, but it felt right. Perhaps his father, James, who'd faced far worse than foreclosure notices in the Mekong Delta, would have understood. That stubborn kernel of integrity, that refusal to let hardship extinguish basic decency, was perhaps the only inheritance Eli truly had left. Around 10 o'clock, the sound of approaching vehicles broke the morning quiet. Heavy engines, multiple tires crunching on his long, unpaved driveway. Eli's stomach plummeted. Grimshaw, no doubt, arriving with the foreclosure papers, perhaps even the sheriff. He braced himself, standing tall on the porch, ready to face the final indignity. But the vehicles that emerged from behind the tree line weren't what he expected. Not a bank sedan or a county sheriff's car. Instead, 3 imposing military Humvees, followed by 2 civilian SUVs, rolled to a stop in his yard. Eli stared, utterly bewildered. An accident on the main road? Some kind of drill? This made no sense. The door of the lead Humvee opened, and a man in a crisp army dress uniform stepped out. Eli's eyes widened in disbelief. It was Marcus Bell, but transformed. He stood straighter, his limp barely noticeable, his face filled with a quiet confidence Eli hadn't seen before. "Marcus, what in the world is going on?" Eli asked, walking hesitantly towards the small convoy. Marcus broke into a genuine, broad smile. "Came to thank you properly, Eli. For your kindness." From one of the civilian cars emerged a tall man in an expensive-looking business suit, radiating an aura of quiet authority. "Mr. Vance, David Sterling, CEO of Heartland Agricultural Cooperative." He extended a hand, his grip firm and warm. Eli shook it numbly, his mind racing, trying to connect the dots. "Nice to meet you, but I don't understand." Marcus stepped forward, his gaze steady. "After I left your stand the other day, I mentioned what you did to my commanding officer. I'm still in the reserves, you see. We were having a leadership meeting that weekend." Eli waved a dismissive hand. "I didn't do anything special. Just gave away some vegetables." "You gave away food you clearly couldn't afford to lose," Marcus countered gently. "My CO happens to be Colonel Arthur Sterling. And his brother," he gestured to the CEO, "is David Sterling." When Arthur heard the story, he made a call. David Sterling nodded, his expression serious but kind. "My company, Heartland, has been actively seeking partnerships with local, family-run farms. Farms that embody the values we believe in: integrity, community, resilience. When my brother Arthur told me about your generosity, about the sacrifice you made without hesitation, I knew I had to meet you." Eli looked from the CEO to the colonel, then to the military vehicles parked incongruously next to his rusting tractor. "All this for some vegetables?" "Not for the vegetables, Eli," Marcus said softly. "For the character behind the gesture." Another man, notebook and camera in hand, stepped out from the second SUV, introducing himself as a reporter from the regional newspaper. "Hope you don't mind, Mr. Vance. Your story, well, it deserves to be told." Eli, still reeling, invited the unexpected delegation into his modest farmhouse. The kitchen, cluttered and worn, suddenly felt far too small. He felt a flush of embarrassment over the peeling wallpaper and the faded linoleum, but his guests seemed entirely focused on him, their expressions open and interested. "Can I offer anyone coffee?" Eli asked automatically, glancing guiltily at his nearly empty canister. David Sterling smiled warmly. "We brought some refreshments." An assistant materialized with a box overflowing with pastries and several large thermoses of coffee. As they settled around the worn kitchen table, the CEO explained their purpose. "Heartland Agricultural Cooperative partners with farms across North Carolina, supplying our farm-to-table restaurant chain and organic grocery stores. We're expanding, looking for dedicated local suppliers." Eli nodded slowly, the pieces clicking into place, yet the sheer improbability of it all felt dreamlike. "We pay premium prices for quality produce," David continued. "Based on what Marcus told us, and frankly, what we can see of your dedication even under duress, you're exactly the kind of partner we value." Eli shifted uncomfortably. "My farm is small. The drought, it's hit us hard. I'm barely producing enough for my stand these days. That's where we can help, David said smoothly. We provide resources, irrigation equipment, high-quality seeds, technical support, agronomy expertise to our partner farmers. In return, we ask for the first right to purchase your harvest at significantly above market rates. Eli stared into his coffee cup, the steam warming his face. It sounds too good to be true. Colonel Arthur Sterling, who had been observing quietly, spoke up then, his voice carrying the calm authority of command. When my brother called me about Sergeant Bell's experience, your name struck a chord. Your father was James Vance, correct? Eli looked up, startled. Yes. That's right. He served under my command in Vietnam. Did he ever mention saving a young lieutenant named Arthur Sterling? Eli's breath caught. Little Artie? Dad talked about him, said he was one of the bravest men he knew. He carried you? The colonel nodded, a nostalgic softness in his eyes. Your father saved my life during a vicious ambush near Khe Sanh. Carried me nearly 2 miles to the extraction point with shrapnel in his own leg. Eli swallowed hard, emotion tightening his chest. He never told that part of the story. Typical Jim Vance, the colonel chuckled softly. Humble to the core, just like it seems typical of his son to give away his livelihood to help a fellow veteran without a second thought. Marcus leaned forward slightly. When I told the colonel your name, described the farm, he made the connection instantly. It felt like fate. David Sterling slid a folder across the table. This is our standard partner-farmer contract, Mr. Vance. We'd like to offer you an advance payment today, effective immediately, to secure our relationship and help you get back on your feet. Eli opened the folder. His hands, which had trembled with dread just hours before, now shook with disbelief and burgeoning hope. The terms were straightforward, fair, and supportive. Then he saw the figure listed for the advance payment. His eyes widened, scanning the number again to ensure he wasn't hallucinating. This would cover the mortgage, and the truck repairs, and everything. Consider it an investment in our shared future, David Sterling said, his smile genuine. We believe in this farm, Eli. We believe in you. Eli read the contract carefully, the weight lifting from his shoulders with every clause. He looked up, needing to be completely honest. I appreciate this more than words can say. But my equipment, it's ancient. The irrigation system is practically non-existent. I'm not sure I can meet the production standards you'll need. David nodded reassuringly. We've accounted for that. The contract includes specific funding allocated for infrastructure improvements. Our agricultural team is ready to work with you starting today to design and implement upgrades. We'll help you modernize, increase yield sustainably. Why me? Eli asked, the question raw with lingering disbelief. There must be dozens of farmers in better shape, better positioned for this. Colonel Sterling exchanged a meaningful glance with his brother before answering. This isn't just about bushels per acre, Mr. Vance. It's about shared values. It's about character. What you did for Sergeant Bell, expecting nothing in return, embodying the very principles of service and sacrifice. That's the foundation we want to build on. Marcus added his own quiet affirmation. When you filled that box, Eli, you didn't know my rank, didn't know who I knew, didn't ask for anything. You just saw someone struggling and acted. That kind of integrity is rare. It matters. With a hand suddenly steady, filled with a profound sense of relief and unexpected destiny, Elias Vance signed the contract. That very afternoon, a wire transfer notification pinged on Eli's phone. Mr. Reginald Grimshaw and the county bank had received their payment in full, silencing the smug phantom for good. The Heartland agricultural team, true to David Sterling's word, arrived the next day. They surveyed the land, listened intently to Eli's experiences, and began drafting a development plan. It wasn't just about maximizing output. It was about water conservation, soil health, the sustainable practices Eli had always valued but lacked the resources to fully implement. Over the next 6 months, the Vance farm underwent a renaissance. New, efficient irrigation systems snaked through the fields, turning thirsty patches into fertile ground, making the crops resilient against the unpredictable Carolina weather. Heartland provided high-yield, drought-resistant seeds. Modern, reliable equipment replaced the dilapidated tools Eli had struggled with for years. Branded packaging appeared. Vance Family Farm, grown with heart in North Carolina. And soon, Eli's heirloom tomatoes, sweet corn, and crisp cucumbers graced the shelves of upscale grocery stores and the plates of farm-to-table restaurants across the state. The transformation was breathtaking. Eli, no longer struggling alone, hired 2 local teenagers part-time, injecting youthful energy back into the farm. His roadside stand remained, no longer a desperate lifeline, but a cheerful community hub, a place to connect with neighbors, often overflowing with surplus produce he happily shared. Marcus Bell became a regular visitor. Inspired by his own experience, he'd taken a position with Heartland, heading up their newly formed veteran employment program, connecting former service members with meaningful work in agriculture, often right there on Eli's expanding farm. One year after that fateful rain-soaked weekend when Eli thought all was lost, he stood with Marcus amidst rows of thriving, abundant crops. The late afternoon sun bathed the fields in gold. "I never expected any of this," Eli admitted, shaking his head in lingering wonder. "I just did what felt right." "That's exactly why it happened," Marcus replied, clapping Eli firmly on the shoulder. "You acted out of pure kindness with nothing to gain." Karma, Eli. Sometimes it works just like they say. The reporter who had documented the initial improbable meeting returned for a follow-up story. He found Eli not just managing a successful farm, but teaching a small group of veterans, participants in Marcus's program, about the nuances of organic farming techniques. "Has success changed you, Mr. Vance?" the reporter asked. Eli looked over the group, men and women finding purpose and peace working the land, many bearing visible and invisible scars from their service. He smiled, a deep, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "It hasn't changed me. It's just given me more to share." That evening, Eli sat on his renovated porch, the farmhouse sturdy and secure. Eleanor's beloved flower garden remained untouched, a vibrant memorial blooming beside the prosperous fields. He felt her presence there, imagined her joy at seeing the farm, their home, not just saved, but flourishing, becoming a source of hope for others. A simple box of vegetables given freely from a place of scarcity hadn't just paid off a mortgage. It had cultivated a harvest of goodwill, opportunity, and connection that continued to spread, enriching the land and the lives it touched, proving that sometimes the smallest seeds of kindness yield the most extraordinary bounty.